So we are in the middle of Sukkot, this beautiful, beautiful holiday, the holiday where we get a hug from God. Every moment that we spend in the sukkah is a mitzvah. And so we're experiencing and loving this holiday. As the holiday comes to a close, there's the last day. So there are two festivals in the holiday, one after another. The last day of Sukkot is called Hoshana Rabba. Hoshana Rabba is a holiday that a lot of people don't know very well. Didn't get it. It didn't get a great a rap. I'll tell you. So what's interesting is like this. It's the seventh day of Sukkot. It's called Hoshana Rabbah, and it's considered the final day of divine judgment. It's actually considered the day in which the fate of the new year is determined. It's the day when the verdict that was issued on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is finalized. So the Midrash tells a fascinating story that God told Abraham, if atonement is not granted to your children on Rosh Hashanah, I will grant it on Yom Kippur. And if they don't attain atonement on Yom Kippur, I'll give it on Hoshana Rabbah. So it became, though it's not known, it's a very, very important holiday. And I'm sure somebody always tells me this joke that they say, Rabbi, you always say that whatever holiday is, it's the most important holiday. Maybe it's true, but it is the most important holiday because it's the one that's happening tonight. But it really is very important. So this day of Hoshana Rabbah, the final day of Sukkot, the judgment is finalized, and we have the ability to kind of think, process, and allow ourselves to kind of the last chance, let's say, of the high holidays. It's the last moment. Now, the primary observance of Hoshana Rabbah is taking a willow. So in addition to the fact that every single day of Sukkot, we take an etrog, a lulav, hadassim, the myrtle, and the willow, the four species, and we wave them together, there's a tradition that dates back to the times of the prophets to take an additional willow branch on the seventh day of Sukkot. And what this does is it commemorates the willow ceremony in the Holy Temple, where there was a large 18-foot willow branches were set around the altar every day of Sukkot. And every day of Sukkot, the altar was circled once. And there was a prayer for divine assistance. On Hoshana Rabbah, the altar was circled 7 times. So that is, we call it Hoshainot, where we circle the altar. Today in commemoration. We circle the bima in the synagogue once for this every day for the 7 days. And on the 7th day, which will be tomorrow morning, we circle the bima in the synagogue 7 times. Today, during the course of this Hoshana Rabbah service in the Torah, all of the Torahs are taken out of the ark. They're held by people standing around the bima. It's considered a solemn, a very special day. And the people will make 7 circles around the bima while holding their 4 species, their etrog and their lulav and their hadassim and arabot, while reciting the Hoshainot prayers, these very special prayers. And at the conclusion of that prayer, they take a bundle. We take a bundle of 5 willows, and we hit it on the ground 5 times. And what it does is it symbolizes the tempering of the 5 measures of harshness. And it's customary for all people, men, women, children, even small children, to do this ritual. And the tradition is not to use the willow from your 4 species, but to take 5 willow branches and to hit it against the ground. There's also a tradition on Hoshana Rabba to learn during the night. We finished the entire book of Devarim, of Deuteronomy, in the synagogue, and there's also a tradition of giving out honey cake. People, and you're supposed to ask for honey cake so that this is the last time you have to ask for anything this year. There's many traditions that are associated with this particular holiday, as it's considered the last day of Sukkot. Then right afterwards, the next day, we start another holiday. Now, this holiday, again, coincides with Sukkot and Hoshana Rabbah, but it is a completely different holiday. It's not the 8th day of Sukkot. It is called Shmini Atzeret. What is Shmini Atzeret? It literally means the 8th day of the holiday, but it's a different holiday. So during this day, for those of you who say Yisker, there's Yisker that is said, and it is considered its own holiday. The origin of it is literally, again, the 8th day, and it's from the verse in the Torah that says that after the 7 days of Sukkot, it says on the 8th day, a stop it shall be for you. That's what it says. And so there was a very special holiday. And now what's fascinating about this holiday is in Israel, in the land of Israel, where the holidays are one day, both Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah are celebrated together. Where out of the land of Israel, they are separated as 2 separate holidays, Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, though there's a lot of similarities between the two. But I think what I'd like to do today is I want to go a little bit into Hoshana Rabbah, talk about the willow, the power of the willow, and I want to also go into Simchat Torah and talk about the power of Simchat Torah. So, the willow branch, it's a fascinating, sometimes I think, like, how do you explain Jewish holidays to people who don't know? We're going to go into a hut, and we're going to take these things, and we're going to wave them around, and yeah, it's just, yeah. I mean, we're crazy, so it's not surprising. So there are 4 species that we use on Sukkot. The most beautiful, it's called Pre-Eitz Hadar in the Torah. A beautiful fruit is called the etrog. It's not a lemon. It is an ancient fruit, possibly the oldest fruit. According to some opinions, actually, it was the fruit that Adam and Eve took from the garden, in the Garden of Eden. There was a bunch of different opinions: a grape, a fig, a date, but it could have been an etrog. It's an old fruit. What's amazing is if you've had an etrog in your life, it doesn't rot. It just shrivels up. That's how ancient it is. It cannot be grafted. It cannot be changed. Otherwise, it's not an etrog. So the etrog growers are very, very careful to make sure that it has really stayed. And all these many centuries later, we still have really pure etrogs. They are usually sourced, at least in our days, they're sourced from 3 places. They are sourced from Israel, but that's only a new phenomenon because we didn't always have the ability to source it from Israel. They are sourced from Morocco. Morocco has quite a nice etrog growing tradition from the Sephardic community for past many hundreds of years. And the creme de la creme of etrogs is sourced from Calabria in Italy, in southern Italy. The etrog is a fruit that both has a good taste and a good smell. The lulav is a palm branch, a date palm branch. By the way, the best lulavs come from Egypt, just random. Yeah, I mean, you can get from other places also, but the Egyptian lulavs, I think it's beautiful that we're able to take. We left Egypt, but we're able to take the Egyptian lulav and make a blessing on it. The date palm is a date tree. What's unique about the date tree is that the date has a fantastic taste, but dates don't smell. So we have the etrog that has a fantastic taste and a fantastic smell, the date palm that has a fantastic taste but no smell, the hadassim, which is the myrtle, has a great smell but no taste because it's a leaf. You see where I'm going with this? And then we have the willow. The willow has no taste and no smell. What is the nature of the willow branch? It seems to be the one of the four species that's kind of left out of the conversation. Because, oh, the etrog, how beautiful. Taste and smell. Even the date palm, beautiful, straight. You need to have a nice lulav that's straight. The myrtle, beautiful smell. People put it in their. My wife made some arrangements for our sukkah, some flower arrangements in our sukkah, and she put little myrtle branches in them because they smell so wonderful, and the whole sukkah smells like myrtle. But the arava, no smell, no taste. What's interesting is for those of us who live in North America or in any northern climate, that's the only one that grows in our climate. And so I think it gets a bad rap, but perhaps we need to give it a better rap. So the sages explained that the four species represent four different types of people. The etrog, with the good taste and the good smell, represents someone who possesses both Torah learning and the performance of a mitzvah. The lulav, the palm branch, which has a good taste, but from the dates, but no smell, represents someone who possesses Torah learning, but not the performance of a mitzvah. The myrtle, having a good smell and no taste, see where I'm going, represents someone that performs the mitzvot, but no Torah learning. And the aravot has neither, represents someone who lacks both Torah study and the performance of good deeds and the performance of mitzvot. Now, when you consider everything that God placed in this world was placed for our benefit, there are three categories. There are things which are sweet and pleasant. There are things which are good. And there are things which are not only good, but intrinsically beneficial or healthful. So when it comes to the physical realm, sweet and pleasant is considered the lowest level. Good is considered the middle level, and beneficial or healthful is considered the most praiseworthy. For example, a person who is spiritually sensitive, when they choose foods they're going to eat, they're going to make a decision based on what is healthy for the body. And that which will provide that person with the maximum advantage in their spiritual pursuit, in their godly service. And even this is true when the beneficial food is not so tasty and doesn't make an enjoyable meal. But when it comes to spiritual matters, I would say the case is reversed, and the considerations are exactly the opposite. If you're dedicated to God's service, to engage in God's service because it's healthy or it's beneficial, is like, as the Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of Our Fathers says, it's like serving the master in order to receive a reward. That's considered the lowest level, according to the Mishnah. Above this is a level that is of good. So sometimes you serve God knowing that it's good and it's right, and you don't know what the risk or the consequences are of going against God's will. We don't always know, oh, if I do this, what's really going to happen? And no one will see it. This is not the ultimate, or it's not the purest way to serve God, since there is an ulterior motive in what we do. The ultimate level of serving God is when we do it solely in order to fulfill the mitzvah or to fulfill the Torah's obligation, whether or not we understand the mitzvah. Even if the mitzvah has no taste or no smell, what does that mean? I translate that as the mitzvah doesn't have any personal satisfaction. So even though it doesn't have personal satisfaction, we are showered with divine benevolence. We're blessed with the great sweetness and the pleasantness in our service, which before was unattainable. We call this a spiritual sweetness. We call, in Hebrew, it's arevus, which means higher than good or healthy. It's this pure essence, arevus. If you think about what that word's, arava, arevut. The idea of aravot comes from the word arev, which means sweet or pleasant. The lowly arava, according to Kabbalah, which has no taste, which has no smell in the physical world, ends up being the most prominent of all the species, that we take it alone on Hoshana Rabba. We take the 5 of them alone. We don't, the other ones, the only way we can do the mitzvah is by having them together. But on Hoshana Rabba, we take the willow alone. And with the willow in our hands, we're elevated along with the willow as we refine our service until we, like the willow, are capable of serving God in a pure, unadulterated way without ulterior motive. It's the willow with no taste and no smell that's able to serve God in a very different way without any ulterior motive. That is the highest level. It has no other thing. Oh, you can say, oh, I'm beautiful because I'm this, or I'm great because I'm this. No, I am here just for the sake of the higher power, just for the sake of the divine. The Arava also represents an aspect of Aaron, the high priest, who was an expert at making peace between people who were at odds with each other. When he spotted 2 people quarreling, this was his superpower. He chose the opportune moments when he would approach the 2 people quarreling and speak to them and befriend them. And if the person would think, Aaron is the high priest, Aaron is the royalty of the Jewish people, and he's befriending me, why does he need me for a friend? If he knew what type of person I really was, he would have nothing to do with me. At that moment, the person, because Aaron befriended him, would resolve in their heart to do teshuvah, to be worthy of calling the high priest his friend. The sukkah, and we spoke about this last week, is symbolic of the clouds of glory. The clouds of glory accompanied and protected the Jewish people, the children of Israel in the desert. Therefore, on Sukkot, the holiday is intrinsically linked to Aaron, and we also incorporate the Arava, this willow, into our prayer. At the beginning of the festival, the Arava is taken each day, and we bind it together with the other species. This way, the person without the smell or the taste can be influenced by those who already are on a higher spiritual level, and they can become elevated through their contact with him. On the other hand, someone who has a smell and a taste, when they come in contact with the willow without a smell and a taste, they're going to be reminded of the inherent lowliness of the human, and they'll be seized by the waves of humility. And so what the willow represents to the person who has the smell and taste, or has a taste without smell, or has a smell without taste, is the humility. The willow represents humility. As a person perfects their personal humility, God at the same time raises them up. This is the power of Hoshana Rabbah. The Torah says, one who brings a burnt offering earns the reward of the burnt offering. One who brings a meal offering earns the reward of the meal offering. But one who is humble, humility, is considered as if they brought all the sacrifices. King David writes in Tehillim, a contrite and humbled spirit is a sacrifice to God. God does not ignore a broken heart. You can't invent a broken heart. A broken heart is a broken heart, but God does not ignore a broken heart. The lowly willow, by way of its true humility, by way of its willingness to be influenced for the better by the other species, it has the ability to be elevated higher until it serves God alone. And this is the purpose of this beautiful holiday of Hoshana Rabbah. When we, in our exalted spiritual state, on this holiday of Hoshana Rabbah, when we really feel that we are children of the King, there's no request that's too much. And then, without embarrassment, we can ask for anything, including the ultimate request, a world that is filled with peace, that is filled with the knowledge of God, as the earth is covered with water. Then, at that moment, we can move to the next holiday, the holiday of Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. What is Simchat Torah? It's the dessert. It's the dessert. On Simchat Torah, what are we doing? We're rejoicing with the Torah. Now, during the year, if you want to interact with the Torah, think about what the Torah is. Everything we just spoke about is Torah. We are interacting this morning with the Torah. We are doing it in an intellectual way. It's the ultimate intelligence. But what if you don't understand Hebrew? What if you don't have that intelligence? What if everything I just said just went so over your head and you're like, I can't connect to the Torah? And there are days, and I'm sure there are moments, I can tell you I have those moments where I'm like, I don't get it. And so some days we have good moments and some days we have bad moments, but that's the nature of intellectual pursuit. But what if we realize that our connection is beyond the intellectual, that our connection to the Torah, we don't have to open it. All we have to do is dance with it. That's all we have to do. When we dance with the Torah, when we take them out and dance with the Torah, we are able to connect to the Torah without intellectual pursuit. I want to just go a little Kabbalistic on you today with this. Because to understand Simchat Torah, we have to understand the nature of our divine service. You see, in the days before Simchat Torah, throughout the month of Tishrei, there are contrasting opposites. For example, the day before Simchat Torah, outside of Israel, right? We said in Israel they're together, but outside of Israel this will be this year on Friday night and Saturday. It's called Shmini Atzeret. Shmini means 8. 8 is a very important Kabbalistic number. There are 10 Sefirot, and if you view them as a linear continuum with one above the other, the eighth, which means when counted from below to above, because that's how we look at the world, not above to below. We look at it from this world moving upwards. The 8th is Sephirah. You ready for this, Jill? is Bina. Now, Bina is translated as often as understanding, but it manifests the epitome of broadness, of expansion. It's Shmini, this idea of 8, it's the idea of an object's essence or gist. It's derived from the 3-letter Hebrew word Shmini for the residue fat or the essence, like a kernel that symbolizes an aspect of divinity which is above intellect and will. The integral relationship that exists between Shmini Atzeret and the 7 days of Sukkot, it serves as a protector over them. Bina, the 8th day, watches over the 7 days, and it's called actually the mother, as it says in Deuteronomy that the mother sits upon and watches her children. It's called the Ima. The Bina is the mother in Kabbalistic terminology, and it guards over the lower 7 emotive and action attributes. So the 7-day Sukkot period is compared to the 7-day feast, which a king serves subjects. But on the 8th day, he says to his dearest friends, "Come and take a meal, and you and I together." So on the 8th day, we have a different relationship with God. The 7 days, we're going through the process of the 7. I know I'm going through this very quickly, but I just want to give you an idea of it. We're going through the process of the Sefirot. But what happens on the 8th day? On the 8th day, we see it very different. We can see it beyond the process, beyond the rest of the days. We're able to see the 8th day as the Bina, as the process, as the understanding. I'll explain it this way. Let's go back to Rosh Hashanah. When we sounded the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, at that moment, God chooses us. And according to Kabbalah, God's free choice originates from a realm that is above and abstracted from everything. God says to Moses in Exodus, in Shemot, "For the entire world is mine." That God's choice to choose us. When you choose something, it is picked from objects which are of comparative value. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to make a choice. So the fact that God chooses us on Rosh Hashanah means that there's a free choice, the same way that we have free choice. The origin of our free choice is God's free choice. It's in the realm which is absolutely above, that's exalted, even preceding the Torah and the mitzvot. It's elevated above every imaginable dimension, every imaginable characteristic and measure. So on Rosh Hashanah, the most sublime of aspects descends into the Jewish people. That's why what happens is we have no choice. What happens when you're chosen by God? It's like the king. It's like the people who were befriended by Aaron. Who am I to be befriended by Aaron? Who am I to be chosen by God? That creates repentance. That creates teshuvah. So we go through that whole process of being chosen, but people say, "Oh, chosen, choose someone else. What's this chosenness?" It inspires us to change, because the idea of teshuvah is higher than the Torah. It's higher than the mitzvot. It has the power to rectify spiritual blemishes that are created by transgressions. And God reveals to us the intrinsic connection, the essence that is beyond any form of description. And what that does is empowers us to accomplish the impossible. In essence, is something that is standing alone unto itself. It's abstracted above definitions. It's drawn down into matters of expansion and breadth and bina. So through the month of Tishrei that we're about to come to a close, all these wonderful holidays, we are creating simultaneous revelation of opposites. We started off with this thing that's beyond us. Then we go into this idea of Bina. What is Bina? We then internalize it and we start piecing it apart. The breadth, the width, the sukkah. The sukkah is the breadth and the width. And now we have the dessert. We can appreciate the secret of Simchat Torah. What the honor of the Torah by dancing. What is this dancing? This joy is expressed by dance, by melodies. Both are they're beyond the scope of letters. The Torah, for the whole year, besides this day, is about study. It's about comprehension, understanding exactly what we're doing here. But now that we experience the Bina, the Torah now incorporates dual aspects. The Talmud says that there are differing opinions. One says, these are the words of the living God, Elokim. The Zohar identifies the living Elokim as Bina. The Torah corresponds to Bina, obviously, because that's what we do the rest of the year. The rest of the year, besides Simchat Torah, we are experiencing, piecing it apart, working through it, trying to understand the Torah. But there's a higher name, there's a higher level, the level of Abaya, the level of Havaya, of the Tetragrammaton. King David says God is with him. The Talmud says that the Torah ruling follows his opinion, that comprehension and understanding alone are insufficient to pronounce legal rulings. But self-nullification, humility, that's what's required. There's no way that we can understand something that's above our comprehension. We don't know what is infinite. That's why we call it the infinite. It's just not finite, because we don't know what's above our comprehension. And so, at some point, we have to realize we have limitations. Now, we have two choices when we realize the limitations of our understanding. When the Bina really happens and we can get the limitations of our understanding, we have two choices at that moment. Choice one is to become depressed. I'll never understand this. Rabbi, this is wonderful ideas. It's so beyond me. It's so beyond me. You're talking gibberish to me. You might as well just speak in Chinese, because I don't think I'll ever learn Mandarin. Mandarin's a very difficult language to learn. So if you spoke in Mandarin, at least I'll know that I don't understand it. Here you're speaking in English. I have no idea what you're saying. It's beyond me. And that's what Simchat Torah does. It says, oh, Bina, the Torah is beyond you. Don't worry. You want to reach that infinite. You want to reach what's beyond you. You want to see God in a different way. Dance. Close the Torah. Hold the Torah in your embrace and dance. That is the power of the Torah that is beyond understanding. This is connecting to the essence, to God. The greatest thing that we can have, if you want to have humility, and through humility you want to understand, there's something greater. And that is joy. Through dancing with the Torah, we cause the Torah to obtain happiness. And by dancing, we become the Torah's feet. And for the rest of the year, our Torah footwork is displayed by establishing fixed times for the study of Torah. But for one day a year, our job is to dance with it. Don't look at it. Don't explain it. Don't rationalize it. Don't try to comprehend it. Allow your soul to experience something higher, the joy. And God gives us this gift. I call it the dessert at the end of this beautiful holiday, the dessert of Simchat Torah. And that is when all the blessings come into fruition. Not when we're in Bina, not when we're trying to understand, but rather when we are able to not understand and just experience it for what it truly is, the item itself, the Torah, the gift that we were given. When we can experience the Torah that way, when we look at it that way, when we dance with it, then we become the Torah's feet. And then the rest of the year, we're able to appreciate, love, and experience the Torah on another level. And that is Hoshana Rabba, Shmini Atzeret, and Simchat Torah, all together in one happy, beautiful thing. And at the end of Simchat Torah, we say, Yaakov holach v'darko. And Jacob went on his way. It's the first from the Torah. If somebody made a song about it, it's called Hit the Road, Jack. And that's when we move our way out of all these beautiful holidays into the year. We take the energy, we encapsulate it within us, and we really move through it. And God shall bless us with all these beautiful blessings. The blessings that are used from the entire month of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, into Sukkot, into Hoshana Rabbah, into Shmini Atzeret, into Simchat Torah. And these blessings shall last us the entire year until, please God, we come back and do it all over again next year.